This adjective titles a 2011 book by, oh, should we do buzzers first?
I think so.
That word hasn't changed. I hope nobody's going to get the first toss-up in 5 words. Is that a risk? Okay. Toss-up 1. This adjective titles a 2011 book by G.J. Eikenberry. It argues that a recent decline in U.S. power is due to authority struggles over the international system. A 1996 book by George Lakoff associates people whose thought is described by this adjective with a nurturing parent attitude. It's not international, but the idea of complex interdependence was developed by 2 authors who expanded on a theory of political relations of this name in power and interdependence. Those authors are Robert Keohane and Joseph Nye. The international relations theory described by this adjective argues that rejecting power politics is the outcome of cooperation. That theory is opposed to realism. For 10 points, name this adjective typically contrasted in political science with conservative.
Liberal.
Yeah, 10 points.
All that for...
Right.
Yeah.
Welcome to Quiz Bowl.
We just went away around the
Welcome to
clock.
Quiz Bowl. Here's a bonus. A series of luminaries of this philosophical doctrine painted by Levi Ponchi include Albert Einstein, who was arguably its most prominent 20th century exponent, 10 points each. Identify this philosophical position about God's nature, which essentially equates God with the infinite universe. Its most famous proponent was Baruch Spinoza.
Theism.
This is pantheism. This philosopher tried to refute pantheism by asserting that all things are ultimately dependent on a single cause, an idea called the principle of sufficient reason in books like Theodicy. This is Leibniz. Pantheism, deism, and other non-traditional views of God's nature became popular during this 18th century European philosophical movement, which emphasized reason as a source of legitimacy. This is the Enlightenment. No points there. Toss-up 2. In a play, this character dances in a white gown on top of the cave from which dead souls are annually released to harass the living tormentors. In another play, this character is consoled by a chorus of palace virgins upon learning of her brother's death in a chariot accident, which turns out to be fake. This character submits her past for judgment by the Lord of Flies and Death in a play by Jean-Paul Sartre. In a play's opening, after this character finds a lock of hair familiar to her own on a tomb, she's approached by 2 men in hiding. Those are her long-lost brother and his companion Pylades. She is... Neck 5. She is castrated, but she is castigated, by the Dioscuri for working with that brother to plot the murder of her mother, who slept with Aegisthus while her father Agamemnon was at war. For 10 points, named as sister of Orestes.
Home truck.
No penalty, that's Electra. When I go over here. Cool. Toss-up 3. This god destroys a ritual sacrifice ceremony when his first wife immolates herself after being humiliated by her estranged father. During that incident, this god is accompanied by his attendants, the Ganas, as he manifests as a terrifying Virabhadra. This god wields the 2-headed Damaru drum on his trident, which is called the Trishula. He and his wife are encircled 3 times during a race between 2 of their children. He inhales the poison image during the turning. Shiva? 10. Answer the following about important women in Chinese history for 10 points each. Wu Zetian, the most powerful female ruler in Chinese history, interrupted the rule of this dynasty with her own Zhao dynasty. This dynasty ruled in the 7th to 9th centuries and brought Chinese rule into Central Asia. This is the Tang dynasty. This surname belonged to 3 extremely politically powerful sisters in early 20th century China. One of them, Mei Ling, married Chiang Kai-shek, while another, Qin Ling, married Sun Yat-sen. These are the Sung sisters. This collective name was given to several famous ancient Chinese women whose lives ended in tragedy. They include Yang Guifei, who was executed during the An Lushan Rebellion, and Qi Shi, who is said to make fish drown with her sight. These are the four beauties. One's there. Toss up 4. This non-royal person tried to escape the castle of Beaurevoir by leaping from the 60-foot tall tower. Forces commanded by this person captured John Talbot in the Battle of Patay. This leader was wounded while storming a fortress called Les Tourelles. This advisor to John of Alençon was captured in Compiègne by the forces of Philip the Good. 20 years after dying, this victor in the Loire campaign was vindicated in an investigation by Calixtus III. This leader convinced Robert de Baudricourt to allow this person to go to Chinon. This person arranged the crowning of Charles VII in Reims. Pierre Cauchon tried and burnt this person at the stake for cross-dressing and alleging to receive visions from St. Michael. Yeah, 10.
Nice. None of that said don't last 2 sentences.
Here's your bonus. The electoral ward named for this town also contains Windsor Castle, 10 points each. Name this British town, which is by far best known as the home of arguably the most prestigious boarding school in Britain, a school attended by David Cameron. And this is Eton. Eton and Windsor are separated by this river, which flows through London on its way to the Channel. Yeah. Eton is found in this ceremonial county of England, whose namesake Downs, a series of chalk formations in the Uffington White House. It lends its name to a set of highlands in western Massachusetts and Connecticut. This is the Berkshires. So 10 points on the bonus. Toss up 5. A protein discovered in this organism binds to a pair of SH3 domains on GRB2 in the MAP kinase pathway, where it serves as a guanine nucleotide exchange factor for RAS. That protein was found to activate downstream of another gene in this organism necessary for proper development of the R7 photoreceptor. The polarity of this organism's oocytes are determined by maternal effect genes, such as lipoid and hunchback. A transposon found in this organism is called the P element. Hox genes were discovered in this organism, whose 7-less gene codes for the UV sensing portion of its ommatidia. Sex-linked traits were found in this organism when Thomas Hunt Morgan bred a white-eyed mutant. 10. Drosophila melanogaster.
Would you accept that?
Yeah. That was all I had except for after fruit. So here's a bonus for this somewhere. In a novel by this author, Shusai is outraged by his opponent Otake's decision to play a forcing move as his last sealed play before a scheduled 2-day break to give himself more time to ponder the game. 10 points each. Name this Japanese author of the Master of Go in Snow Country.
Guava.
Yes. This Kawabata novel centers on Shingo's relationship with Kihuko, who is unhappily married to Shingo's son Shuichi. Its title refers to a disturbing noise Shingo hears in his sleep. The cry? It's the sound of the mountain, or Yama no Ocho. In the sound of the mountain, a deceased co-worker leaves Shingo a pair of these items. These items title a novel like Fumiko Inchi, as well as a novel about a man who fails to fall in love with a girl named Sonoko. These are masks. 10 points on the bonus for Kawabata. Toss up 6. This man coined a term describing organizations like the Knights of Columbus, the Grange, Hadassah, that have a brilliant diversity spread like stars. A speech conceding the presidential nomination to this man proclaimed a cultural war for the soul of America and asked the speaker's namesake brigades to support this man. Peggy Noonan wrote this man's speech that promoted volunteer groups as 1,000 points of light. This man called his predecessor's policies voodoo economics and was lampooned for his failed campaign promise, read my lips, no new
George H.W. Bush.
10 points.
No, Jason.
This technique can be used to identify protein DNA interactions through EMSA, which looks for a band shift, 10 points each. Identify this technique, which uses a matrix such as polyacrylamide or agarose to separate bands of DNA or protein by mass. This is gel electrophoresis. When performing protein gel electrophoresis, the proteins are typically denatured with this 12-carbon detergent, which helps linearize the proteins and provides an appropriate amount of charge per unit mass. This is sodium dodecyl sulfate, or SDS. To fully denature proteins, disulfide bonds may be broken using reducing agents such as the odorless TCEP. Named either with two unpleasant spelling thiols, also often commonly used to reduce disulfide bonds for SDS page. Let's see. These are excuse me. These are dithioteritol or 2-mercaptoethanol. Good luck. Good luck getting that reference. No points on the bonus process. This geographic feature is the one most often accessed by religious devotees visiting Ghat stairs. This is the most sacred geographic feature into which the remains of the last rites of the Antiesti ritual are placed. This geographic feature is often metaphorically referred to as Mata, or mother, referring to its centrality in the culture. This thing's human personification is depicted clad in white and holding a lotus. As a goddess, that representation of this thing happened to sin broken by the rocks of Mount Kailash. Next 5. Ash is often scattered into this body, causing some pollution for the thousands of people who live in it during the Kumbh Mela pilgrimage. The city of Varanasi is from the Vingsa for 10 points, Wat River, most sacred to Hindus and the longest in India.
Indus River?
Yeah.
Somewhere like 3 words.
This symphony's second movement, scherzo, calls for a solo violin with each string tuned up a whole step, for 10 points each. Named this G major symphony, the last by its composer to set a song from his collection, Des Knaben Wunderhort. This is Mahler's 4th symphony. This Mahler symphony begins its funeral march first movement with a solo for unaccompanied trumpet. Some consider its 4th movement adagietto to be a declaration of love for his wife Alma.
Resurrection?
It was his 5th.
Oh, it's 5th?
Yeah. The adagietto movement of Mahler's Symphony No. 5 calls for one of these tall wooden instruments whose 47 vertical strings are plucked by a seated musician.
Hard.
10. Also 8. This European language was used to write a poem that opens north and west and south upbreaking, titled Hijira, which is from a collection of 12 poems inspired by reading Hafiz. The title character of a poem in this language promises a child that his beautiful daughters will wait on him and lead him in nightly dance. The West Eastern Diva was written in this language, as was a poem which describes a man writing in the night who ignores his son's fears of an elf-like creature.
German.
Just out of power, 10 points. Good buzz, though. Invading Egypt sure can get messy. For 10 points each. According to Herodotus, the invasion of Egypt by this empire's king Sennacherib was stymied when mice ate the bowstrings of his army. This empire, with capital at Nineveh, was later ruled by Ashurbanipal.
Babylon.
This is the Assyrians.
Didn't you Babylon?
Although this ruler did conquer Egypt by defeating Psamtik III at the Battle of Pelusium, one of his armies was supposedly buried in a sandstorm while to besiege the Oracle of Amun.
No.
This is Cambyses II. A more successful invasion of Egypt was conducted by this Semitic people who introduced the composite bow and chariot. They made Avaris the capital and ended the Middle Kingdom, establishing the 15th dynasty.
Big sauce?
10 points on the bonus. Toss-up 9. A 7-movement E major solo piece for this instrument begins with a preludio and includes a gavotte et rondeau. J.S. Bach's 2 concertos for this instrument are in A minor and E major. Two of these instruments are found in the standard instrumentation for a trio sonata. Along with a flute and harpsichord, this instrument has a solo part in the Fifth Brandenburg Concerto. This instrument plays the melody of the second movement of the Third Orchestral Suite by Bach, who also wrote a lengthy D minor chaconne for it as part of a collection of 6 solo sonatas and partitas. This instrument is given a prominent solo part in the air on the G string. 10 points. Name this smallest string instrument. Yeah, 10 points. In a 1990 docu-fiction film with this title, the director explains his use of this technique before filming Hossein Sabzian's Confession for Impersonating a Famous Director. 10 points each. Name this type of cinematic shot that depicts an object from a near distance. It may be extreme if it frames only a single feature of the subject's body.
Close-up?
Yeah. This director of a film titled Close-Up, also created by Dee, who offers people money to bury him after his suicide in the film Taste of Charity.
Smith.
This is Kiarostami. This director also created a film title for a film technique, Day for Night. He's better known for depicting the circles of Antoine Doinel in the 400 Blows. Answer? This is Francois Truffaut. So that's 10 points. Toss up 10, after which we'll have a half. The dynamic phase factor for a particle undergoing an adiabatic process equals -1 over h bar times the time integral of this quantity. This quantity is negative for the bound state solution of the Dirac delta well. For a finite well, the wave function outside the well transitions from evanescent to oscillatory as this quantity increases past the well depth. This quantity equals 1/2 times h bar times omega time for the ground state of the quantum harmonic oscillator. The eigenvalues of the time-independent Schrödinger equation correspond to this quantity, which is represented in quantum mechanics by the Hamiltonian. The first law of thermodynamics states the conservation of this quantity. Energy, 10 points. Brock? One of these words, addressed to a friend nicknamed Socrates, asks him to keep these words out of the public eye, and their author compiled them after coming across a similar collection by Cicero. 10 points each. Identify these works, one of which describes the birthday of alpinism. In that example of these works, its author claims to be the first person since antiquity to climb a mountain for the view. Answer? These are letters by Petrarch. This collection of poetry by Petrarch was unusually written in vernacular and largely focused on his love for a woman named Laura. Renaissance scholars studying it later gave it a name roughly translated to the songbook. This is Il Canzoniere. In Secretum Meum, Petrarch imagines an intense dialogue with this saint from Hippo who wrote Confessions and the City of God. Answer? This is St. Augustine. No points there. The half, I have 95-35. Can we agree? All right. Then toss up 11. A 1958 article titled for this discipline argues that it can't be advanced without a good philosophy of psychology and criticizes it for lacking opinion diversity. Egoism, intuitionism, and a third approach to this discipline are discussed in the best-known work of Henry Sidgwick. A project carried out in this discipline since the Enlightenment has wrongly discarded its core ancient concepts according to a 1981 book by Alistair MacIntyre that were the Eretic term. The term consequentialism was introduced in a paper titled for this discipline written by G.E.M. Anscombe. Problems in this discipline include Philippa Foot's trolley problem. The concept of virtue was carved in the late 20th century and for 10 points, what branch of philosophy which studies right and wrong?
Morals?
I can take that. Ethics or moral philosophy.
You know which one you want? I figured if I was vague, you would prompt me or
Right. That's the good thing about Quizable, you don't just get next for no reason.
It never works to be just yourself.
All right, let's see. When he sees a work of art in this city, a man asks his friend Akatis whether there is anywhere on earth that does not know their hardships. For 10 points each, name this city home to a bronze temple to Juno and an enormous mural depicting heroes, which leads a man to cry tears for things, or lacrimae rerum upon seeing them. Carthage. That mural in Carthage depicts the events of this ancient war, whose long siege is the subject of Homer's Iliad.
The Trojan War?
Yes. This Carthaginian queen is subjected to her love affair with Aeneas after she unwisely gives Cupid a seat on her lap. She commits suicide after Aeneas leaves for Italy. 20.
Our hospital scholars guys literally told us not to pitch it out of. So we became a
Toss-up 12. These people built terraced hill forts called Pa, and had their language documented by Thomas Kendall. The ship Hazard bombarded a town controlled the members of this ethnicity after they cut down an object on a hill given as a gift to James Rusby. These people attempted to raise a powerful monarch during their king movement. Duncan Cameron crushed the revolt of these people. Neg 5. Crushed the revolt of these people in the Taranaki region. They fought the Flagstaff War under Honoheke. Tribes of this people experienced bitter infighting in the musket wars. These people massacred the Pacific Moriori people of the Chatham Islands. William Thompson got them to surrender their sovereignty in the controversial Treaty of Waitangi. For 10 points, name this indigenous people of New Zealand.
Polynesians, Kiwis.
I can't take that. It's the Maori. Right back into the dread. Toss of 13. For a transition to be active in this technique, the transition moment operator must transform as one of X, Y, or Z. Geometries of molecules analyzed by this technique can be deduced by analyzing the shapes of the P, Q, and R branches of individual peaks. For centrosymmetric molecules, the rule of mutual exclusion states that the transitions active in this technique cannot be Raman active. And like in Raman spectroscopy, molecules analyzed by this technique can be modeled by a quantum harmonic oscillator. Bond strength is correlated with peak frequency in this technique according to Badger's rule. Carbonyls have a distinctive 1750 inverse cylinder peak in this technique, which measures vibrational transitions in the 100,000 wave number range. For 10 points, name this technique that probes molecules with light with longer wavelengths than visible light.
Ultraviolet?
No. No kind of thing.
Spectroscopy?
Prompt.
Mass spectroscopy?
No, it's IR spectroscopy. Infrared. There's a few of them. There's quite a few of them. Let's get it. Toss up 14. Michael Levy argued that the claustrophobic courtyard in this painting has been entirely taken up by the bare brick in the background. A smaller version of this painting in Toledo, Ohio, was painted by its artist and his pupil, Anne-Louise Giraudet. At its far right, this painting shows two women who are either asleep or fainting, one of whom has a turquoise headband. This painting is compositionally divided into three sections, framed by three artists in the background, which lie behind a woman in dark blue comforting children. This painting, which is rooted in a story of a dispute with Alba Longa, shows a father holding up three swords towards three saluting men with outstretched hands. For 10 points, name this Jacques-Louis David painting of About Taken. Neg 5. Of About Taken by Roman Brothers. It's time. This is the Oak of the Horatii. That's the other big David work. Toss up 15 if we check the score again. Beerbohm Tree states the 1904 performance of this play that made the Darwinist missing link portrayal of one of its characters popular in the 1930s. Many productions of this play cut out its Act 4 mask, which features Iris and Ceres bestowing their blessings, after which three conspirators are chased down and captured by hunting dogs. That mask from this play ends with its host thinking that we are such stuff as dreams are made on. In this play, Stefano and Trinculo are caught while trying to carry out an assassination plot during the marriage of Ferdinand and Miranda with Caliban's help. For 10 points, name the Shakespeare play in which Prospero shipwrecks 10. French and Dutch national referendums on the creation of this document soundly rejected it in 2005. 10 points each. Identify this proposed document, which was discarded after those referendums and replaced by the Lisbon Treaty, which provided pretty much the same thing. A description is acceptable. No answer. This is a constitution of Europe. After rejecting the Lisbon Treaty in a 2008 referendum, this country was bullied by the EU into holding a second referendum in 2009, which passed the treaty. Around the same time, this non-Greece country's tiger economy was getting crushed by the financial crisis, leading to a bailout. Answer? This is Ireland. Though Poland and Britain got exceptions, the Lisbon Treaty gave legal force to the Charter of Fundamental these things used by the EU. A universal declaration of them is used by the UN. Yeah. So 10 points on the bonus. After 15, I have 110 to 60. So toss up 16. He's not Idi Amin, but this leader's distrust of Asian citizens of his country is detailed in the writings of J.M. Nazareth. This leader's economic policy was advised by an economist sent by Tom Ugoya's African Airlift Program to the University of Hawaii, whom he later blacklisted, and was built around community self-help events called Harambee. He banned the opposing KPU party following the 1969 elections, after which Oginga Odinga became his vice president. The book Dreams from My Father recounts conflicts that this predecessor of Daniel Arap Moi had with Barack Obama Sr. Along with the rest of the Kapenguria Six, this leader of the KANU party was arrested for participating in the Mau Mau revolt. For 10 points, named as first president of Kenya. 10 points.
You say Harambe.
With 2 E's. So it's Harambe, it's not Harambe.
I don't understand why that's a thing.
We're going to the bonus because I'm not going to talk about that. For a two-dimensional flow, these lines are defined by constant values of a scalar field symbolized phi, defined such that the curl of phi equals the velocity. 10 points each. Name these lines that are locally tangent to the fluid velocity at all points. They represent the trajectory that a massless particle would follow if it were placed in the fluid. These are streamlines. The stream function is only defined for an incompressible flow, which is a flow for which this quantity is held constant. For water, this value equals 1,000 kilograms per cubic meter. This is density. This equation states that for 2 points along a streamline, the pressure plus rho GH plus 1/2 rho V squared is constant. Answer? Repeat? Robbery. This is the Bernoulli principle.
Oh.
So no points there. Toss up 17. A jerky-like substance whose name means beef rope was eaten by the cowboys of this region. Those cowboys were called Paniolo, a name which may come from the word Espanol, since this region's language does not have an S sound. Food is commonly served with 2 scoops of rice and macaroni salad in this region, and a meal simply called a plate lunch. This region created a dish consisting of a hamburger patty, a fried egg, and gravy on top of rice called a loco moco. Dishes from this place include a mashed chero paste called poi, as well as pork wrapped in banana leaves and cooked in an underground oven. A marinated ahi tuna salad from this region is called poke. A food found in this state is effectively a 10. allowing this system to govern a region is a common concession to Islamist separatist groups. 10 points each, name this body of legal code that guides the everyday actions of Muslims. Answer? Yes. This term, meaning exertion, is used to refer to independent legal reasoning in Islam, or effectively creating new Sharia. Following this sort of reasoning without directly examining scripture is called taqlid. This is ijtihad. This purist Islamic movement, as well as the Salafi movement, which is sometimes considered an offshoot of it, discourages taqlid and promotes ijtihad as a way of creating a more pure Islam. It originated with an 18th century revivalist in Najd who preached against tomb veneration. This is Wahhabism. So 10 points. Toss-up 18. Josiah gives names a method for finding these systems that only requires knowing 3 coplanar position vectors. The velocities of bodies involved in these systems described by this word can be calculated using the Viva equation. The most efficient process between these utilizes 2 instantaneous velocity changes and follows a half-elliptical path. That transfer one is named for Hohmann. When that type of system described by this word occurs with respect to a satellite, its most extreme points are known as the periapsis and the apoapsis. The theory of epicycles was developed to explain retrograde examples of these paths. For 10 points, name, or 10. Ishmael Reed introduced a contemporary version of this literary genre while working on his novel Flight to Canada. 10 points each. Identify this genre of literature typically made up of the written accounts of a certain group of people. An example of this genre is narrated by Solomon Northup.
Tradition.
These are slave narratives. This canonical example of slave fiction by Harriet Beecher Stowe includes a license escape from bondage and is credited as a primary cause of the climate leading to the Civil War. Just possibly. This Afrofuturist wrote about Dana looking back in time to the 20th century to encounter her ancestors, the slave Alice Greenwood and her disturbed master Rufus Whalen, in the neo-slave narrative Kindred. Answer? This is Octavia Butler. You should totally read. Let's see, that's 10 points. So with 2 left, I have 160 to 60. Toss up 19 in a second. This musician gave a horn solo to John Coltrane on the second track of the 1957 album, whose cover depicts this musician seated in a red wheelbarrow. This composer placed Celesta instead of his usual instrument on the track Canonica. In a 1953 album, this composer covered Balu Bolivar Baluzar from an earlier album that includes a cover of I Surrender Dear and closes with Bim Shasween. This composer wrote albums titled for his music and for his dream, and as a pianist, was known for the piercing angular technique he used in such standards as Well You Needn't and Episcopy. This musician wrote the album Brilliant Corners and penned the standard Straight No Chaser. For 10 points, named this jazz pianist who wrote Round Midnight. No penalty. I almost said the first one. That's time. This is Thelonious Monk, whose middle name was evidently Sphere. Toss up 20 to last. The story by this author ends with a man dying before he can add a candle to an altar for the despised Acton Hague. In another story by this author, a man wakes up in Alice's lap after he faints while chasing the ghost of the successful businessman he might have become. This author of The Altar of the Dead wrote about Spencer Brydon in The Jolly Corner. This protagonist of a story by this author sees a horror glaring down from outside the dining room window, which she later identifies as the apparition of Peter Quint. This author wrote about an unnamed governess who struggles with the ghosts of Quint and Miss Jessel while taking care of Miles and Flora. For 10 points, name this author of The Turn of the Screw. 10. In 1887, an attempt at completing this project was carried out jointly by the USS Niagara and the HMS Agamemnon. 10 points each identify this infrastructure project that was pioneered by Cyrus Field. It was finally constructed successfully in 1866 by what was then the world's largest ship, Isambard Brunel's SS Great Eastern. Repeat. This is the transatlantic telegraph project. This industrialist, who was one of Field's collaborators in the Atlantic Telegraph Company, built an innovative steam locomotive called Tom Thumb for the B&O Railroad and founded a namesake engineering and art school in Manhattan. This is Peter Cooper. This president argued that the Constitution allowed the federal government to restrict the expansion of slavery in his 1860 Cooper Union speech. Lincoln.
Yeah, so I don't need to report what it was.
I have 170-60 final.
Yeah.